Welcome everyone to the 4th episode of Trash Takes. I'm your host, Theo Aronstam, joined by Hajime Sano, Jacob Shia, Wesley Jang. We have Steve producing the whole shebang in the back. And unfortunately, we do not have Jerry with us. He's out quarantining, but he is here with us in spirit. Today, to keep the theme going of having guests on our show, we are joined by Kaeli Huh and Maya Kumar of the P4C. So yeah, as is tradition, how was your guys' week?
It was pretty good. I don't know if any of you were in A push, but yeah, the final it's a lot. That multiple choice was just not great. Yeah.
I think that's on every single one of our minds. Everyone who's in A push, that final really got to us.
Yeah, the DBQ was like okay, but the multiple choice, everybody just.
Apparently, someone got a perfect score on it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. No, the multiple choice.
I don't
Someone
know.
in 4th period, apparently. It was 30 out of 30. I don't understand.
They killed the curve. They literally killed the curve. Now everyone else just gets 1 point. It's the biggest bro. It's the biggest bro in the world.
My decision to drop that class is being more and more reinforced as a good idea.
Regular history with Miss Freeman.
Oh, man.
We love Miss Freeman. She's one of our advisors for consent.
Yes, she is. Yeah, her and Miss Kim Taylor.
Yes, we love Miss
Love
Taylor.
them people.
Did any of us have non-test woes during this week, or was it all just pain and suffering?
My English teacher was like, "This is how you ask for a recommendation letter." I was like, "Oh," and every stress level just went like. So that was fun.
That is a wreck. Oh boy, I don't know who I'm gonna ask.
We don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it.
It's a problem for later.
Sure,
Yeah.
go with it. All right.
Yeah. So you guys were touching on the Piedmont For Consent, all your guys' meetings, and I think if our audience doesn't already know, what is P4C?
So to give you guys the spiel that we usually give, P4C is a group of students that formed kind of because of the Protectors account. It was a bunch of people wanting to do more and to foster a consent, like loving and great environment. Do you have anything?
In case you didn't get that, P4C is Piedmont For Consent.
Yep. My bad.
Just for some context.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so we meet every Thursday afternoons. Every Thursday afternoon. And we welcome anybody who wants to join. And we're doing a lot of really important work to help change the culture at our school and in our community as well.
Yeah, we just actually just visited, I guess, was it yesterday?
It was
yesterday. Dang, bro.
Long Friday.
Oh yeah.
We were just talking about how, that was such a good discussion. We wish we had recorded it. It could have been podcast 3.5.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was fire. It was fire.
You guys should definitely come back. We always need more people, and especially we need more male identifying students to participate because it's an everybody issue. It's not just a female issue.
Yeah. And for you, when you guys curated this club, how did you guys what really sparked the interest in getting into this club?
I don't know the exact details, but we actually started as 2 separate groups.
Yeah.
And I think very early on we met and we were like, so we have the same goal. Why don't we combine forces? And then we got more people. We started, normally every year there's a consent assembly put on by Miss Taylor and students who she works with. And this year that wasn't possible because it felt too it's hard to tell those stories over online.
Yeah, and Miss Taylor was also worried about just having those stories put to an audience where she can't watch all of them.
Mm-hmm. She can't see who might be videoing it or who might be reacting or in certain ways. So we decided our first thing to do would be to put on an informative workshop instead because we knew we couldn't go the year without consent education.
We had to do something.
So we started building up, our membership, and then especially when we started recruiting people to work on the workshop and be trained to present it. A lot of them ended up staying on.
Yeah, and even if there's a good amount of people beforehand. I know for me getting into this, I wasn't even supposed to be there. It was diversity committee had a Slack for a short period of time, and someone sent this like meeting. Miss Taylor pulled together a bunch of students she knew that were interested in this issue, especially after the like account really got big. And then we just like met more and more. And then, like Maya said, there was 2 groups. It was a bunch of sophomores. We all combined. We decided on roles like that meeting, and somehow I ended up as co-president. And she's technically our community outreach, but like the admin specific one. But we kind of like
it's more like we have a board and we all do the same thing.
It's like
except Kaeli runs the club, but like
Anna and I run the club with Miss Taylor. She's my co-president, and then we have a bunch of different committees. So the committee leaders are also very integral to club leadership.
Yes. So yeah, it's good. Right now we're working to create K through 12 grade specific education throughout the whole district.
Yeah, Maya's actually one of the committee leaders for the elementary school education.
Mm-hmm.
So exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I think my next question is, we've been when we had our guests on last time, I think what we kind of wanted to synthesize like right out the gates is like, because I think our podcast is blooming into something greater than the ACT project. But when we really look into the root of it and why we actually like started it, it was that concept of like toxic masculinity, and it's kind of like how it affects like a lot of different facets of life. So yeah, I was wondering, what are you guys' kind of observations of toxic masculinity in a societal sense, or even like in our little community in Piedmont?
So Maya and I have actually had the privilege of listening to episode 3, and echoing off of Sophia and Annabelle's answers to these this kind of question. Like toxic masculinity is kind of everywhere, and I think for a lot of us female identifying students, it's something that kind of just hums in the background a lot of the times, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And you notice it from like the way you're treated, just like how, I know, people being surprised at like your ability to do very basic things or stuff that you're very much qualified for, or even as it permeates into like the social structure and how a lot of male identifying students talk about female bodies, and even just like the way people are perceived and stuff like that.
Yeah, we had a very interesting conversation, I think a month ago, with my mom's boyfriend, he's a great guy. He's a really good guy. But my mom, and his daughter were trying to explain to him that catcalling is really demeaning to women, and it's not just men having fun. It's specifically like targeted to make them feel small and like, or scared, and like make them feel less. And he just
make female identifying
people feel less. And he didn't. It took him a while to grasp that, because he was like, he just didn't really understand. He just didn't really get that was like, that it wasn't anything except for just guys like having fun. And we were like, no, it's specifically meant to make female identifying people feel small.
Or I think that's the underlying feeling. Like I definitely understand. It's like you think you're complimenting people.
But like, because he's a straight guy, it's not something you really had to like.
Yeah, and I think that's like when you guys came to Piedmont for Consent and just listening to everything. I think that's the point that really comes home. It's like, it's not like you guys are all like, oh, like, let me use my, like, toxic masculinity to be, like, the worst human and create the worst environment. And a lot of these things are just so normalized and so just something you don't have to think about. And that's, I think, what, I don't know, like, the biggest point of all. It's like...
Like you guys were talking about in the earlier ones, how you were so shocked about, all the stuff that happened to Piedmont for Consent, with the Piedmont protectors. And, because for a lot of male-identifying people, that's not something they have to think about as much, but so most of the female identifying students were not shocked. They were just like, it's just an addition to everything we've heard in our growing up,
yeah.
So
that was our long-winded answer. Please feel free to jump in.
I think what you say, it has a lot of truth. Because I feel like the reason why I guess boys are so shocked is, of course, because we're not on the receiving end of that, We only see boys from, or I guess male identifying students from the male identifying eyes, We don't see, consider, more so see, how they are to female identifying students. So I think it's, just really shocking to us when we hear that these these events come out, because I mean we only see them as like, I only see them as like this student, I don't see them from the other side. And I think that's, I guess really interesting to think about how, they might have another, I guess, almost mask, or I don't know, persona.
Yeah, at least for me, a lot of these events are like, oh, that's what's gonna happen to me if I don't do what like I've been taught to do, like not walk on this alone at night by myself, or not wear certain things, or engage with certain people. So it's just like I'm like it's just like another like reminder that I need to be careful.
I think the biggest thing to me, honestly, was the sheer number of posts in like such a short amount of time. It was like a week span, and like 90 posts or something like that came up. And like I knew that, like I'd heard people talking about it, so I knew it was an issue, but I didn't know it was so widespread at like such a local level. That, I think, is what hit me the most. I didn't realize it was such like a massive problem. So yeah, that was the biggest shock point to me.
Yeah, but oh, I'm sorry. No, you go.
Yeah, well, I just building off of that, the sheer number itself was a concerning statistic, but on top of that, I I had the impression that for every one of those females who was willing to speak out, there was probably another one who was afraid to speak out to the due to the patriarchy and the the difficulty and the trauma and the fear they have of speaking out and getting criticized for speaking out.
Yeah, and to that point, like, let's look at Piedmont culture. Like, that's a completely valid reason. You know, like, a lot of these survivors were being, like, behind the scenes info. Like, a lot of them were being, like, threatened, or, like, some of them, like, this is totally a gossip moment, but, like, I know stories of where, like, perpetrators have contacted their survivors and then just like totally like sued them for defamation and stuff like that, even
And
though
parents too. There's
Yeah.
parents help like allow this behavior to go on, especially with perpetrators, because they're like, oh my god, I have to protect my perpetrator kid
yeah
from getting maybe the consequences he or she or they deserve.
yeah
And so that's like another part of the culture.
and I part of me is like, of course you want to protect your kid, but it's just but also it's like you can totally see it, like these generations go on, like I think one of you mentioned about the stories about the dads. Like this is a generational problem. Living in Piedmont, we're surrounded by immense amount of wealth and immense amount of privilege, so of course you're breeding this culture where so many, or so, especially male identifying students, feel so entitled to take things, and I think that's a huge component of why sexual violence happens.
And a big part of Piedmont for Consent is we want to focus on education, because we feel that for all those like sexual assaults that happen that are like purposeful, I guess I don't know if that's the right word, but there are so many that happen because people just don't understand that what they're doing is a violation, or they don't understand the nuances of the like necessities, and so someone or multiple people end up getting hurt, and the person doesn't really have malintent. It's just they just don't know.
There's a lot of freezing that goes unnoticed and a lot of fawning that goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
I remember there was obviously there was a name, so I don't know who it is, but like there was a story of a person who I think told the story about how he perpetrated an instance of, I think it was like date rape, right? Where like, or not date rape, but where like the girl was drunk and then guy like takes advantage of that. I think there's a guy who was talking about that, about how he did it, and that was honestly really brave. I saw that and I was like, dang, this person is really brave for saying this kind of thing, because I feel like behind the scenes he probably got really slammed by like maybe friends or like maybe his parents, right? Maybe he got slammed for that, saying that kind of thing. So I thought that was really brave, and I think that was like my first inkling of like maybe I need to start talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I like that you pointed out that it's not that he would get flack for abandoning the act necessarily. He get flack for publicly admitting that he did, in a way.
And I think it sounds like he was somebody who's admitting it because he felt bad about what happened, and he had felt serious remorse, and that is, I mean, we prefer these acts not to happen at all, but if, when people come forward for also having committed something and they feel terrible, they want to continue to learn and work to better themselves and, their knowledge and others, that's really important.
Restorative justice.
Yeah, it's restorative justice. And so, yeah, I think that's really important.
And toxic masculinity won't go unconvicted here, because it was the toxicity involved in toxic masculinity. It's a factor that discourages male identifying students from admitting that, because they don't want to feel vulnerable. They want to be in that position of dominance, and that failure to recognize that that they should be in that vulnerable position, and that they should be exposed for what they done. Just the absence of that perpetrates that cycle of how toxic masculinity informs lack of consent, which informs more toxic masculinity.
Yeah, I think a big part of toxic masculinity is, you know, you can't talk about a lot of stuff. There's a lot of topics that you aren't allowed to talk about or touch. And I think that the biggest part, something we've discovered when we've been looking, really carefully to consent, is that communication is like number
So
one.
important.
Like even in in sexual situations, in any situation, with other people, raising kids, like communication is so necessary. Because if you don't communicate, then your kids aren't going to learn how to communicate. And then if they don't communicate with other people, all this stuff that everybody's feeling or everybody's going through is just going to be left unsaid, and everybody's going to feel like it's all happening to just them alone.
Yeah, I mean, for P4C, we read one of our members had this whole document, a bunch of toxic masculinity, as essentially a lesson plan, and had some links to all these talks about reading more, and almost all of them reference how toxic masculinity makes it so I think to your point of the whole one path thing, men can't express emotion, and that's obviously very harmful. If not even just communicating their feelings too.
Yeah. And also, and then, we talked to, men are have this one pathway where they're not supposed to show emotion. And, women also, if they show, too much emotional, there's this, especially now that there's, so many more women are part of the workforce and they're not just in a domestic role anymore, just in the world now. A woman, if they show, emotion in the workplace or they get emotional about something, oh, it's just another emotional woman. In some ways, they have to embrace the toxic masculinity aspect of not, showing emotion in order to fit in these higher level positions.
Literally Pearl. The short we watched in Barlin's class? Yeah, it's Pearl. Yeah.
It is Pearl. Right.
Yeah, I think my next question for you guys is, I think we've been touching a lot about just how toxic masculinity as a whole. I think it just ingrained in every single guy to some certain extent. I think my question is, what do you think that every male identifying student should know kind of surrounding consent, or just as a good I don't know note in general? I feel like.
Well, I mean, Maya touched on consents for everybody and consents in everything. It's not just in sexual situations. I think all of us kind of in the club had that misconception for a long time.
Yeah.
But as we've been surrounded by these topics more and more, it's consent is everywhere. But I
consent
think
needs to be everywhere. It's not.
Yeah, it needs to be everywhere.
Consent needs to be everywhere. Asking for it it's not showing weakness or.
It's not awkward.
In fact, I think a lot of those situations can be more meaningful if you're trying to, be open, and
sure, yeah.
and allowing the other person to, open up and be honest with you as well.
Yeah, that's how mankind works. The strength of mankind is communication, and the more we master communication, the more human we become, the less animal like we become. So so I feel like consent will drive us down more of that humane path, both in terms of sexual relationships and in terms of society.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point you bring up because, like, then I guess with that analogy, when we, as when people don't ask for consent, I mean, not only do you make yourself less human by it, I mean, I guess not communicating, but you also kind of make the other person not human either, turning them into an object that, you can just use without permission. And I don't know, that was interesting.
It's definitely whenever like whenever like I do something without permission, or whenever like someone does something without my permission, it just doesn't sit right with me. So like I think definitely the consent needs to be everywhere thing is super important. It's like, how do I say this? It's an integral part of what being a human is, right?
I think one fun thing that, or I guess I would say ultimately more insightful, is that before before we started today's podcast, we watched a film. Was it an Oscar nominated film?
It won.
I don't know.
I think it won, actually. It won a bunch of Oscars.
Did it really?
Yeah, I think it won an Oscar, too.
Exciting stuff.
Well, the film was called Promising Young Woman. And I think Kaeli came to us and was like, you guys, we should all see this and we should all talk about this right on the podcast. And I think right when it was over, I think I just I got so many like just takeaways from it, and I was like, yeah, this is something that we all need to like synthesize our own like thoughts and opinions on. I think this was really impactful. Yeah, and so what are you guys' like ultimate takeaways from that film?
Should we give a brief synopsis?
Yeah, sounds good.
Oh, and spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have timestamps.
I think the way they frame it is that a woman, Cassandra, every weekend she acts like she goes to bars or clubs or whatever, and she pretends to be drunk, and she waits for a guy to like come check in on her, and like the whole thing is like every single time that guy takes her home and tries to take advantage of her, and then as soon as it's like about to like get too far, she was like, she shows that she's sober and like confronts the guy about it, and like that's kind of the premise of the movie. Should we go into more?
Yeah, and she's doing this because in med school, she's a med school dropout.
Mm-hmm.
Her classmate Nina was raped by this guy Al.
Yes.
And the school administration didn't act. People didn't believe her, and Nina ended up killing herself.
And Nina was Cassie's like best friend.
Yeah.
So then the movie follows Cassie as she's not in a good place.
Yeah.
Like the way she copes is by going to these bars and pretending to be drunk and stuff like that, and like wanting to not prove these points, but like kind of make these guys second guess.
Vigilante justice. Almost.
Yeah, exactly. And the movie. So this guy named, what's his real name? He plays by Bo. He's played by Bo Burnham. Ryan. Yeah. Ryan comes back into her life, and he was in their like med school class. He's in med school
with them, yeah.
But he actually like went all the way, and they meet again, and like they they get into this relationship, and like falling in love and having a great time. And Cassie's kind of getting out of this cycle essentially, and like this dark place. And then. Skipping some parts, like she like goes to all like the people that were very integral into Nina's case of like not believing her. So like the lawyer who defended Al himself eventually at the end of the movie, who's getting married, the friend who's played by what's her name? Alison Brie, but that's not her name in the movie.
Her name is Madison.
She was their friend too. She didn't believe Nina.
The dean refused to prosecute.
Yeah. So Cassie had been going to these people and trying to like get kind of revenge or like ask them like, why didn't you believe her? But then she kind of puts that aside, falls in love with Bo Burnham, and is getting in this Ryan, and it's in this great place. And then Alison Brie comes back into her life and shows her the recording of Nina's rape.
And she sees Ryan.
Ryan was there. He was a bystander in it. So then she goes to Ryan. She's like, "What the hell? Like what? Like," and then she obviously breaks up with him. Makes Bo Burnham / Ryan tell her where Al's bachelor party is. Goes to the bachelor party, dresses up as a prostitute as like a disguise. She like drugs all the guys. Gets Al in the bedroom. Is like gonna carve Nina's name into his abdomen as a way of like saying like, you know, like Nina had to carry your burden onto her for so long until she ended up killing herself. So I want to do the same to you. But then as she's doing it, Al actually breaks free because he's been handcuffed to the bed and he suffocates her to death. And then Al and his friend, who's played by Schmidt in New Girl.
That's not the actor.
It's that guy. They essentially burn her body, and then they think everything's good. You know, you skip to the wedding. It's like all great, and then the police come for Al for Cassie's murder, and then you see Bo Burnham get these texts of it's like you know pre-scheduled texts from Cassie being like hi, like this was the plan or something like love Cassie and Nina, and then the movie ends with like her sending a smiley face. That's like the briefest synopsis of the movie.
That was a pretty long
Yes, but
synopsis.
That's pretty
Yeah.
much the movie.
Okay, good.
That was pretty good, yeah.
Well, okay. I've had a question about this movie ever since I watched it. It was for you guys. Why did you guys think that we wouldn't like it? Because that was a dope movie. Why did you guys think we wouldn't like it?
Okay, I was a little biased because I was talking with a friend about this. See, I keep saying friends because I feel like I can't name people because I don't know. And she was saying how about she was like reading the reviews on this movie, like a thing on Rotten Apples and all those
Tomatoes,
things.
Rotten
Rotten Tomatoes, yep.
What?
Twice. And like all of the bad reviews are from men being like, you know, this is a horrible movie, like this has bad themes in it, like it's portraying that no guys are good guys and like the whole all men are trash, all men are rapists kind of idea. And like the overall proving like a lot of people did love it because it's a good movie, period. But a lot of the bad reviews are coming from men. So I'm sorry that I assumed though.
I think it's trying to almost make the point to show like why the all men are trash rhetoric is there and why you know people are putting so much stock behind it, because even though Ryan didn't kill her in the end, and I don't think he involved. He wasn't.
Ryan was not involved in the murder.
But
He didn't even go to the bachelor party.
Yeah, but he was, you know, someone she trusted, she loved, she fell in love with, and in this, well, he didn't, and then she finds out that he did this horrible, or watched or participated in this horrible thing, and so it's, you know, it's one side of the you don't really know people, you can't really know people to a certain extent, but I actually had a question for you guys, which is, why do you think she did that and didn't include a full Ryan redemption arc?
The director.
The director.
Hmm.
Because she could have done that to prove a different point, but it would have changed the story.
I'm kind of thinking, and because this was kind of the most intriguing thing was actually we were talking in second. I was talking with Jacob and Wesley in second period, and you, Wesley, were you saying like you thought Ryan was almost throughout the entire movie like he was like almost the good, like portrayed as a? Do you feel like he was portrayed as a good guy?
Well, okay, I should probably give some context to this. I mean, I was kind of feeling like when you told me that, you know, we would hate it, I figured that the movie must have been like saying, oh my God, men are terrible people, men are monsters. And, you know, I think when I was watching the movie, you know, I really feel like I might have felt that way had Ryan not been a character. Like had they only portrayed like, I don't know, the creeps. And I will say that, you know, the fact that Ryan was in the movie made it seem like, okay, he was like my champion. Like, yes, Ryan. And, you know, because I think that made it seem like, okay, there are good people, but I mean, like, but also these creeps exist and they're out there. But I know Theo had a good point about Ryan. I'll let him get back.
I feel like throughout the beginning of the movie, throughout the duration of the movie, instead of like saying, "Oh, Ryan, there's my Ryan," it was more so I was like, "Oh, something's terrible is gonna happen to Ryan." It's like he's gonna it's gonna be a situation where like because originally I knew he was gonna be a bad, like not a terrific guy right from the start, and I think I knew that because when he was asking Cassia, was that right? Cassie, when he was asking Cassie out on the date, he kept like persisting. She was like, "No, I'm not interested in going on a date." And I think also this coupled with the fact that it was just like a couple guys, but like every guy in the movie was kind of like they had ulterior motives into like coercing her into sex and stuff. I thought that was my interpretation of what Ryan was gonna be. And when it was all like lovey dovey and they were like in love with one another, I'm like, nah, something's up here. Something's up here. Yeah, and I think especially Wesley, did you think to like at the end when it was like you saw him do this thing, was it like, oh, he's not a good guy, or what did you think?
Well, I think circling back to Maya's question, I think it's more impactful that, he did actually, turn, I guess not evil, but he didn't tell the detective, oh, she went to the bachelor party, because I feel like that kind of forces you to put into question, because I think the viewers probably will think, oh, I'm a good person, I'm like this Ryan dude, but it really forces you to put into question, are you really good, or are you just, are you just, I don't know, do you have like ulterior motives, like kind of like Theo was saying?
And it's also like, I think there's also like he never, you know, sexually assaulted Cassie. That never happened, and he was a bystander in Nina's case, in Nina's rape. He didn't physically rape Nina, but with him not telling Cassie, not bringing it to anybody when it happened, and then also lying about her death. Like, in some ways, is he just as bad? Because I wonder if it's like a commentary about, there are the men who do it, and not just men, but there's the people who do it, and there's the society that allows it, or the system that allows it. And so because he's allowing his friend to try to get away with this stuff and do this stuff, is he just as bad?
I think one of the primary points of the movie is that there's good and bad in everyone, right? But in the case of Ryan Cooper, there's I saw him as kind of a hope, right? He was almost there. He was almost to the point of being good. All he had to do was speak out about what happened and not be the bystander. And for us men, if we can achieve that, if we can be Ryan Cooper and go that extra step, there definitely is hope for tackling this entire issue of the lack of consent and how toxic masculinity perpetrates more sexual misconduct.
And I think that circles around to, like, we were talking about locker room talk. Like, if someone is telling the story about their antics in the locker room, and there's that one or those people are like, dude, that's not okay. That's a violation of this person's privacy. Or
maybe not in those words, but
yeah, okay,
yeah.
You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
gist, okay? Or they stand up, or they're like, you did what? Whether it was consensual, but the reporting's not consensual, or all of that stuff. Then that can start changing it as soon as possible. So speaking up is important.
Yeah, because Wesley made this point about having ulterior motives, but I feel like in Ryan's case, it's not even ulterior motives. It's just he didn't.
Just cowardly almost. Yeah,
it's he was just too scared to make a stand on something that he knew was wrong. He watched the video. He's like, I don't want to watch this, Cassie. And he knows. I think a lot of us know that sexual violence is a bad thing. But I think with him, it's not that he had these bad intentions. He just wanted to save his friend. He didn't think much of it. It was a blip in his timeline. He didn't care enough to speak out.
That's the importance of believing. I like what Sophia said on the last one. I'd rather believe a liar than a rapist.
Oh yeah, that was a good line.
That was a really good line. Because I think that he doesn't want to I think he almost doesn't want to associate the rape with his friend and someone who he cares about. And so he's choosing to protect that person, but it's if someone, well, one, he was there, so he knows it happened. But even if he wasn't, it's do you really want to, if this person really did rape someone, do you really want to be on the side of protecting them? So that's a really good line. I really like that line. I'm going to use that in the future.
Yeah, well, there's a reason why rape is a felony and lying isn't necessarily.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's very true.
Very true.
Nice, Jacob.
I feel like I'm almost giving. I think me personally, I feel like out of this circle, I feel like I'm giving Ryan. I feel like I give Ryan the least amount of credit almost. I don't know, because I feel like especially during that moment, he was like it seemed like especially like in that moment he was like it wasn't disturbed like when he was when that action was happening and he was being filmed, but it was more like he was kind of on board with it. Um, and like and it was just like this person that you like, and then especially because like they were just so loving and um yeah and I feel like then he just got all defensive because he was like hesitant to tell him about the cabin, and it was like you're more worried about in this stance you're more worried about your own image than this other person that you it feels like we've all interpreted that you really love this person. This person is almost like your world in a sense, but it was like he probably it was so like in that instance where he was like get out of my office now. If he gets released, then both of us are not going to be doctors. It felt like he was prioritizing his image over her, and I feel like he didn't yeah, I feel like I don't think he really like redeemed himself in any way.
To that point, I thought that Ryan Bowe, whatever. I thought he was like the representation of your average male identifying viewer. Like most male identifying people who watch that movie were probably like, yeah, I'm that person. I'm nice to girls. I don't make them drink alcohol or whatever. I don't take advantage of them. I'm a nice person, right? But at the end, like obviously, it was revealed that he was a bystander, and like Theo said, he tried to save face. He tried to like save his own reputation first. And I think when male identified people see that, they're like, maybe that's me. Maybe I'm doing this sort of thing and I'm not realizing it. I thought that was the whole point with the Ryan character.
Yeah, and like also it's like with Ryan, I think it points back to this point with the whole like, maybe this like point out like that we can all be being bystanders almost just as harmful. I think it's also like, you can have these morals, you can do whatever and like be morally straight, you said, right, Jacob? And like have these beliefs, preach whatever, but if you don't stick by them, if you don't actually speak out when you are a bystander, then what's the point? You're just putting on that nice guy persona, and like I think you full-heartedly believe that you are this nice guy, but if you can't stick to it in the moment, then your entire morals and everything fall apart.
But then there's also, the debate of, okay, what is morally right? Because Cassie, although her actions were taken with love, I guess love / of her friend in mind, those weren't great actions, especially when she she threatened the dean with having her teenage daughter in a house full of frat boys. Like, she went after a teenage girl. She was traumatized, and
well, no, the teen daughter was just at a diner. But
I know,
yes,
but
yeah,
still,
yeah.
she tried to blackmail a mom. But Cassie was traumatized.
Yeah,
and never got.
Yeah. What do you guys think
support.
about what Cassie did, or continued to do? Honestly,
Yeah.
she had a lot of check marks in that book.
I feel like that was my favorite point. That was like when it was like, oh, story number 1. I was like, that's when I think beforehand I thought the whole premise of the story was going to be like she's just meeting all these guys, and like we would probably like the audience, that why I was thinking you were saying all guys, like a lot of guys weren't fond of the movie is because the guys are probably all going to be portrayed as nice. But then when I realized that she's going out and she's just like everyone that was associated and did not help her and denounced her, I feel like that's when I think that's when I was most invested. And I think for me, I didn't really view it in the like the realm of like realism, or like I mean, I guess that could happen in some capacity. But I think it was more so like a really like interesting showcase of like that. I don't know, like I guess it could happen if like and just like the fact that she got like revenge in such like a large capacity, and like I think just like how everything was like meticulously or like well like kind of crafted. I think that added to the enjoyment of it, and then I think also I think I forgot, guys.
It's all-
Not that good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I wasn't thinking about it too hard. I was just like, damn, yeah, she got the hit list. Oh my gosh. And like, I don't know. I guess I felt like her actions were all in the end justified. And I was actually very glad that she wasn't actually killing them or actually hiring a hit rapist or anything. Because I feel like if had she done that, it would have been kind of like, that's not justified in my mind. But I feel like
With the Alison Brie character too.
yeah,
Especially that one.
What was her name?
Yeah.
Madison?
Madison? For,
Madison.
for context, like Madison's the friend who didn't believe. They meet up for dinner.
She's a friend that didn't believe Nina was raped.
Yeah, because her reasoning's like, oh, Nina always slept around kind of thing. Cassie gets Madison really drunk, gets her to kind of like just be drunk, and then pays this guy to essentially just take her to a hotel room. But you don't get that point until later. You think that Cassie paid someone to rape her.
But the what Cassie did though is Madison was so drunk that Cassie had the guy take her to the hotel room, but Madison doesn't know that. So Madison is terrified that she was
Yeah,
raped
she's going
while
crazy.
she was drunk.
She's going crazy.
So Cassie's almost like essentially driving her crazy with the wondering about whether or not she was.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting.
But also I wonder if it's a movie, so you said in your mind Cassie's actions because a lot of them didn't pan out. Like she didn't kill anybody, or like the teenage daughter wasn't actually in the frat boys, or Madison wasn't actually raped. But if someone did this in real life, would we really say that was justified, or would we not?
I'm not sure because I think in the movie she only ended up telling this, I forget, Madison character.
Yeah.
Yes, this Madison character that it wasn't true until she showed up at her house and was like actually there, and I think I suppose because I don't know, because then in real life, I suppose if I'm taking this from a real life lens, then she's just kind of like inflicting the same trauma as that she was trying to avoid. And I guess in a real life lens, probably not justified then. But then that's not as fun of a movie.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't whether or not it was justified. It was just like all the issues that exposed. Like what would have happened if there wasn't that plot twist and like the hotel person actually did rape Madison, like the social issues that it exposes them on its own bring a message.
Yeah, the fact that the director chose to have her commit these acts, but never go quite past what a lot of us think would be too far. But too far in the movie world, because I think in reality we'd already think a lot of it was too far. But in a movie world we're like, oh, thank God, like Madison didn't get raped, and of course in real world we thank God Madison didn't get raped, but also in real world we'd be like, what the hell were you thinking? Yeah.
I think how I viewed it, kind of what I was trying to say before, and then I forgot. How I viewed it was not necessarily like, is it plausible or not, but I was viewing it more like, or no, I guess I was viewing it more as it plausible and like not how everybody was going to be viewed morally, but like that this I feel like I guess kind of contradicting my point. I guess it is. I feel like it is plausible in a sense, and I feel like ultimately I view like the results of everything involved as like being really tragic, and it's like this. It's like I think the message that I got is that because this toxic masculinity culture, like all the like trauma can boil up to the point where people are doing like these meticulous things, and I feel like that's not the product of like that's not Cassie being a bad person. She's just affected by trauma to the point where it just makes so much sense to commit these things, and I think that ultimately it's just like toxic masculinity, like just perpetrating, bystanding, like locker room talk in a sense, and just like not not upstanding. I feel like ultimately my ultimate like kind of message, like how I kind of perceive that is like this is how detrimental it might be getting, and just like this is just like I feel like it really contextualizes just like to what like how like the extent of like somebody's trauma. I feel like.
And Cassie wasn't even the girl that got raped in the situation, right? She was the friend of Nina, who was the person who got raped, right? So it shows how like widespread the effects are, not just the person who was the survivor / victim, or like the people around that person, right? The people in their lives, like family, friends. So yeah, I thought that was how can I say interesting.
I
Oh God.
I agree. I think it shows the universality.
Universality,
Yeah.
sure, go for it.
Sure, that's a word. Of this issue because Nina was the one who was raped and she ultimately ended up killing herself, but Cassie was traumatized by this as well, and her actions. I think the people, honestly, the biggest people who were traumatized, like as a result of Cassie's actions, were Madison, the friend, the female friend, and the female dean in her, who was traumatized by the thought of her daughter, being stuck in a place with a bunch of drunk frat boys.
Yeah, because Loki, Al, and his friend, like, they killed they burned Cassie's body, didn't think twice about it. Or,
so the people who were like,
Al was crying. But...
Oh, okay. I feel like Al was crying more so because he's like, "Oh God, I just killed somebody," right?
Yeah, but I feel like the whole point about like Nina and like his actions then didn't matter. It was just the fact that he killed someone.
Yeah,
it didn't matter who.
But it showed like the
Yeah.
women were most strongly affected by everything that happened.
True.
So I think it was supposed to show the universal like it affects. I mean, everybody's trauma it's their trauma. It shouldn't. But I don't know how to say this exactly.
Rape culture affects us all,
Yes.
but in our society, due to things like the patriarchy and toxic masculinity, female identifying people often hurt the most.
Yes.
Or not even the most.
Or the most
but like,
aware of it.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah.
Because I was like,
I was
like, oh crap, I
character to
killed a
think about.
person.
Yeah.
Not, oh my god, I raped someone and then they killed themselves and then I traumatized their friend and now I had to kill her. It's like he didn't go through that far.
Yeah, like Joe took all of 30 seconds to comfort him, and he was like, "Yeah, it's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. It was an
the
accident."
scene where he's like,
that was
yeah,
shocking
yeah,
to me. It took so
yeah.
little time to convince him that it like wasn't his fault. That was
No, exactly. It
mind-blowing
immediately
to me.
goes from, oh, LOL, like the stripper is just pretending to be dead. Oh, oh shoot, the stripper's actually dead. This is not your fault. Like, there's no,
There's no, oh wait, you smothered her?
yeah.
Well,
That scene was crazy when he's like yelling, like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Yeah,
It's not.
yeah.
That was crazy.
It's showing the power of denial.
I mean, yeah, I think that was just a really good, I don't know, like metaphor in a way of what actually happened. I don't know how many years ago, like 30 years ago, with the rape. Because I mean, it was basically like, yeah, basically them just sweeping it under the rug again, having that huge event just be some forgettable moment in their lives, and just I guess just literally burning it away, just for it to be nothing but dust.
And even though Al was arrested in the end, which doesn't often happen, Nina's still dead. Cassie's still dead.
He was arrested for Cassie's murder primarily, not the rape. Like, he'd also, like...
Yeah, but I'm saying, like,
yeah.
like he was arrested, but it doesn't change what happened.
True.
And this goes to show the dangers of justifying these bad actions. It further demoralizes men and gets rid of that moral compass that tells them that these are not moral things to do, right? And that's part of being morally straight.
And in this case, he wasn't brought up for rape, and so he had to end up being brought up for murder, and that's not always the case, but it's
Yeah. Something else to think about, because I asked you guys to watch this movie, and I was like, okay, let me read all of like the analysis stuff, so I'm like the most prepared for this, whatever. But I read this thing about how like the director purposely made it so that Cassie's face is never shown after she's killed. She becomes an object again, even though the entire movie's from her entire point of view. The second she's like put like in this situation, she's never. I thought that was very interesting to think about.
Yeah, I guess another observation, I don't know if this alludes to something bigger, but I feel like at the start of the movie she had like her nails painted and stuff, and at the end she was just like all super colorful, like her hair and everything. And I feel like maybe that was like alluding to like that was becoming like a boiling point in a sense.
Well, also like the use of color in general, like the blues, especially like how I watched this video about all the color stuff. It's like on like how blue is like the patriarchy, and like she slowly starts to wear more and more blue the more she's with Ryan. Yeah. I keep thinking it's Bo Burnham, and like that's true, but like that's not the character's name. Yeah.
I feel like for me, I guess this isn't synthesizing with like the plot of the movie, but more so how I anticipate it as. I think throughout the week I've been more and more kind of trying to like understand that notion that if like and like or just like trying to understand um that if like females need to like employ a sense of weariness onto any man, I feel like that's their right to do so. And I was like, I think like that's where the notion that all men are trash gets its validity. And so I guess what I was more anticipating in the movie, it was just going to be like um, a lot of like just a lot of males that were like portrayed in a good light um, at the beginning, just like having like ulterior motives, just having a shaky moral compass. Um, but yeah, I think that tidbit kind of went under the radar more and more. Is like if you're more like just like I guess like check your morals, I guess. And like if your ultimate goal is to like coerce somebody in sex or something along those lines, then like well, no matter how nice you are on the surface, it's just like that's not okay.
Yeah, and like you guys, as we said before, came into P4C, and they said something like this beautiful point about how you had been like thinking about, rethinking about like the all men are trash like reasoning, I guess, for the way the phrase is saying, and how you did feel like you were defensive in the last episode about it.
And that's what we need is people
Yeah,
to
and
think
I feel
about it.
But like I feel like the way you were just so able, and like all of you guys are able to just be so readily able to like learn and accept that you're not going to get it right, or that you might react wrong the first time, but you're still going to continue to think about it and try and better yourself. I don't know. I think it's beautiful. I think you guys are doing.
That's what we need. That's people are gonna get it wrong. There's so much. There's cancel culture is I hate it because it's like where people do one wrong thing sometimes and then they're just completely shut out. And it's like, but what if we took time to educate them and in turn educated others? And if they like, we're gonna learn from making mistakes. That's how we learn. So it's important that we learn. There's like societal thing where you can't make a mistake. Like you're not allowed to make mistakes. We make mistakes and we learn from them. That's how we learn, and that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure. I mean, like, I can certainly speak to at least my experiences, but I know I won't speak for everyone on the podcast, but posting the first episode, like that whole week before, we were so terrified. Well, I wouldn't say we, but I for sure, I think it was mostly me and Jacob and I. We were very, very scared that we were going to get canceled. And like, even with the second episode, even with the second one, we were still worried about that. And I think, yeah, ultimately we just had to accept that, whatever happens, happens. And if we do get canceled, I mean, we're just gonna have to, I guess, yeah, really take it as an experience to learn. And I guess we'll just have to continue on and just learn from that learn from that mistake and just be better, I suppose.
And you can learn on the canceling side of things. If you disagree with someone or something, don't go after them. Don't go after them as a person. You can go after the idea, but in that context of having a constructive debate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's a dialogue. What Mr. Garland has been teaching us since he started working here, and what a lot of our English teachers have tried to teach too is that's where we get places. Dialogue is open, and you keep an open mind, and you learn and revolve and work on ideas. Because debate doesn't get anywhere. It just puts the arguments out there.
I think my initial notion that I feel like has been more and more reinforced, and I think when I was kind of saying like I was pretty sure that we were not going to get canceled. That like especially in the realm of Piedmont, like I was kind of contextualizing like just like there's more humility and people are more so thinking about like what they're worried about more so like how other people perceive them more so than like trying to go and out and get somebody. And I feel like that notion has kind of been proved true in just these circles with our last conversation and this one. And I feel like just that sense of like it's almost like confrontation in a sense. It's like we're just like all in a circle and we're not just like they're not like the like how you have like anonymity online on like social media and but I think more so in this circle that's just like that sense of like that you're giving your own opinion. to just to everybody. And it's just that dynamic of just having a discussion. I think that instills. I think humility is sort of, and just carefulness and open-mindedness, and I think just I think is more so kind of put on full display when we have these talks.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all on the same page that there's a difference. I do think that in the case of, especially with malicious intended perpetrators, they do deserve to be held accountable and not necessarily canceled, but called out a little bit. But yeah, I do think with Mr. Barlin's help and everything, no, there's I don't know, with dialogue and stuff like that, we need to be able to give each other the benefit of the doubt a little bit, and of understanding I know that all four of you have great intentions, but you might not say the most perfect, the most eloquent statement on all of these topics, because that's unrealistic to expect you all.
And same for us.
And same for us, exactly. We've been talking about this for a whole year now, but we are not perfect either. And I think almost in Piedmont there's this want to always be right, always be the most PC, and I think that becomes very detrimental when we have these spaces, shared spaces together.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a beautiful note to end it on. So did you guys wanted to advertise something before we concluded?
Oh, we don't have to do this. We want to continue. We talked about communication is so important, and first of all, people should come to P4C. Also, there's going to be
3:30.
Yeah, Thursday 3:30. There's going to be a town hall. With the whole Piedmont community. We're gonna have a panel of.
Do you want me to speak? Yeah. So a little bit ago, Piedmont For Consent, a couple of us pitched to the admin of hey, we want you guys to do these two events, and one of them is this town hall, because obviously we all know the protectors happen, and admin haven't said anything about it, and we wanted there to be a space where students could talk to admin, and
anyone
anyone to just understand more of processes and stuff like that, and through working so much with admin, or so much, we I think it's very easy at the school to think that admin don't care or don't do enough, and in some regards that could be sort of true, but I think a lot of it is just there's a lack of transparency of students not knowing what admin can and cannot do and when it's out of their jurisdiction, unfortunately. So we wanted to create a space where we could all kind of talk together.
Yeah, so we'll have a panel, I think, of students,
teachers, admin, community members, a woman from Baywar, and Natasha Singh, a football coach, I think.
And are we going to have the police there? Or?
Potentially a police person is there for a little bit, but I know that some opinions have been shaky on whether we want that or not.
Yes. But so I think right now it's May 27th.
Yes. Yes. After the AP Bio.
Yeah.
So get excited for that.
So we ask that you submit questions in advance and please participate.
Yes.
And you guys too.
Yeah, I think for sure I'll be there. Lit.
Yeah, after the AP Bio exams.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Sleeping.
It'll be something to look forward to,
Mm-hmm.
After...
There you go. Frame it like that. It'll be all nice.
Well, with that being said, and episode 4 comes to a conclusion. I just now that we're having discussions with, just we're opening up it to multiple intersectionalities. I just feel just synthesizing opinions, learning other people's other people's thoughts and opinions. I feel that's just been super insightful, and I think I'm super grateful that we can create these dialogues across the board. So thank you guys for tuning into episode 4. I had a lot of fun. It was really fun.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you, Hi, for having
us.
us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys both. Yeah, our 2 guests. Oh my God, thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah. Coming this late at night, it's almost.
Oh my
It's
God.
not that bad. It's not that bad. Thank
Okay,
you
we
guys.
got food,
Thank you
so-
so much for having us. This was really
It
cool.
was really good. Yeah.
And thank you guys for being, like I said, so ready
Having
to be
this.
vulnerable.
I
and
love
Yeah,
this.
and all having this is really amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you guys all in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Trash Takes needs your feedback. If you want to voice your own opinion and have us discuss it in a later episode, Click the Google form in the description below.